go. All right, welcome to episode 3 of the Project Millennial podcast. My name is Nick Macri, and this is a show for millennials by millennials. We're here to talk about business, entrepreneurship, starting in your 20s, how to just get over that fear of, man, can I go back to school? Should I go back to school? Or should I just try to start a business and get into the real world? And we're going to talk a lot about social media and just kind of getting out over those fears. And I thought, man, there's nobody better to talk to than Evan Kidd, my good friend. Welcome, Evan.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me. Stoked to be here.
I appreciate you coming on. You know, we had your brother Ryan for our episode 1, and so you guys are an impressive duo.
Oh, yeah.
I must say, man, you know, as a filmmaker, because that is what you primarily do, man, you're just so impressive. And so, you know, some of the pieces that you've done have been on Amazon, you know, on Amazon Prime, and some of the feature films that you have are just really, truly moving.
Thanks, man.
Emotionally, I think that's something that you really connect with. So tell us a little bit more about just kind of how you got started and what you're doing, working on right now.
Yeah, man. Well, yeah, again, thanks for having me. Stoked to be here. Like you said, my big thing is filmmaking. It really has been since I was like 5 years old. You know, I just picked up the family camcorder one day, watched too many movies, just couldn't get enough, and just kind of kept going from there. I would just put, friends growing up in my little, short skits and movies. And then YouTube came around. And so that made it way more accessible to people when the internet came through. And then just like when it came time to go to college, I knew I needed to do film as a major. I knew it was going to be kind of more difficult. It's one of those careers where it's a little more artistic and it's a little more competitive. There's not always like an infrastructure. But I just knew I needed to go for it. And I knew that like my heart wasn't in anything else. And so that was the biggest thing, was just deciding to make the leap. And, going through art school and film school and all that, it taught me a ton. And then when I got out of school, like you said, I made some independent movies, some of which have been through film festivals, Amazon, stuff like that. My first feature film, Son of Clowns, we toured all over the US. And back in 2016, did a bunch of stuff with that. Made a TV show in Louisiana called Home Remedy, and then just actually finished wrapping on a new film called Panda Barrett. So that one is going to be super surreal and trippy. It features a rapper and his imaginary friend who's a panda bear in a mascot costume that no one else can see. So it's going to be wild. It's super different from anything else I've done. So we'll see how people like it. But the big thing is just making movies outside of the like quote unquote Hollywood system.
Yeah.
My big thing is just working with talent and voices that we're not hearing from, people you're not seeing on Netflix, because there's so much talent locally and regionally. And so my big thing is like, I live in North Carolina. I lived in Louisiana for a little bit too. And so like any place I found myself outside of LA, I was like, there's no reason for me not to be making movies. There's people here, there's talent here. Let's put it together. So.
Well, I love that point that you bring up about keeping it local and really highlighting your hometown and where you're from, because, a lot of filmmakers, at least nowadays, at least I see, you obviously know much more than I do. But they go out and they'll go, hunt for those different cities that maybe have incentives for movie making. That,
Atlanta gets a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. But I love the fact that you, really that's not what you're there for. It's a passion of yours. So, and you've pursued your passion.
Man.
Which is awesome, man. So tell the good people where they can find your newest feature that's coming out. Say the name again.
So it's Panda Barrett, like Panda Bear. So yeah, it's featuring a local rapper out of Durham, North Carolina, Camus Leonardo. So he kind of plays a fictional version of himself. I do a lot of music videos, a lot of hip hop music videos too. So I kind of wanted to find a way to direct. It's not a musical, but there is music in it. So it basically is him trying to write this one song throughout because of an event that happened in his life, which I won't spoil. But then he keeps seeing this like panda bear, and it keeps kind of like getting in the way. And it's like, what does it all mean? So, there's some comedy, there's some drama. And then like that's going to eventually end up on Amazon Prime. And that's where you can watch basically most of my works right now, or you can go to my website, rocksetproductions.com. I've got a bunch of stuff streaming on there too. So
that's really awesome, man. So, I mean, you're really someone that's dedicated to your craft, and you're
try to be, yeah.
You're in it because you're passionate about it.
Yeah.
So talk a little bit about that. So for anybody watching, I say this a lot. yeah, I'm in real estate, right? So I'm in the real estate industry, and as a realtor, and as someone that's now a team leader, I also, get into social media a lot. We have a social media business and everything, but in general, in the real estate industry, which is what I'm a part of, I've always said that it's not the smartest people that are successful. It's always the hardest working people,
Yeah.
And a great example of that is Barbara Corcoran, who's on Shark Tank, the
Yeah.
popular ABC show out there. And she always says, for all of her life, she was always made fun of for not being smart, for being dyslexic. And she just outworked everyone. And that's how she was super successful. But I think in any industry this applies because they have that 80-20 rule. So speak a little bit to, in the film industry, how does that apply? How do you, not even how you become, a filmmaker, but how did you get over personally that fear of, man, can I really go create a feature film and put it on Amazon? Like, how did that happen?
Yeah. It's daunting at first, and I would say especially when you're coming out of school, whether it's, high school, college, trade school, whatever, it's always daunting to start, right? And so that's the hardest part. Like, it's funny you mentioned Shark Tank. So that was my first gig. I was the lowest crew member on an episode of Shark Tank that came through Greenville. So they did a casting call. Yeah.
No way, I didn't
Um,
know this.
yeah. So I was the like lowest ranking person on the totem pole.
What was your role?
I was production assistant. So I was
Production.
getting people coffee. I was getting people, organizing lines, because there was like hundreds of people there to like pitch. And
Yeah,
so this is basically the part that they don't show as much on the show. So it was pre the Sharks.
yeah.
So it's all the producers who they're pitching to. And the producers then pick like the best people to go on to do
Story.
it.
Gotta have that story.
Yeah. But
Right?
like it's just organizing chaos, right? Because there's so many people and you're telling them, all right, getting this line, getting that line, shouting, all this other stuff.
Yeah,
But that was like my first gig I got in the quote unquote film industry. I'd shot like wedding stuff and corporate videos on my own.
yeah,
In addition to, making my own films in college as well. But like at first I was like, this is amazing. I need to jump in the industry. And I was super stoked about it. And
yeah,
then I did a couple other reality shows and like, they would come through North Carolina every once in a while. So I was on this crew call list and I would go do that. And I did that for about a year. And then I kind of realized that there was a limited growth trajectory with those production assistant roles. They were kind of meant to get your foot in the door, understand how it works. But then I realized if you want to be like a writer director, you have to go writer direct. Like that's the thing. There's not really a ladder for that. It's the people that do it that you hear about. That's because they made their own stuff. You know.
yeah. I would totally. I was just gonna say then, if we would, because you're getting real deep into it, and I love
Yeah,
it.
yeah. I do that. I ramble.
No, I love it, bro. I really love it because this is a great story. But I wanted to take a quick step back, though. Tell me though, how did you get that position? Did you have
Yeah.
a connection? Did you make a phone call? Did you just call up, Kevin O'Leary and say, "Hey, Mr. Wonderful, can I get a spot
That.
in Shark Tank?" How'd you do it?
Me and Mark Cuban go way back. No, I'm just
All
kidding.
right.
Really what happened was there was a crew call list, kind of like I was saying, and you would email out your resume and they would post it at the beginning of the day. And so you had to be there, and it would just basically be whoever was the soonest in the inbox of these producers would be who would get called.
Hmm.
So I would always wake up early. I would check this list. I would refresh, kind of wait and then shoot them out, shoot them out, shoot them out. And there would be, days and weeks where I heard nothing back despite doing that. But it was just a lot of like persistence. And eventually one hit me back. And that one was that, pre-production on Shark Tank.
That's so
But yeah, like it was wild. Like, and it's funny. Like it's funny how that works because you don't have any control with it. It's just you have to kind of hope it works out.
So you
But
had the wherewithal to say, I need to just, even though, man, it's radio silence for like
yeah.
weeks and weeks, but let me just, I'm just gonna keep pushing. Uh,
Yeah, and it's tough. It's tough when that happens, but
yeah,
you gotta keep your eye on the prize. And like what I like to say is like have an A story and a B story going all the time, and that's a technique that people use in film a lot. And so your A story is your primary story, your B story is your secondary. And usually, if you do it right, they kind of coalesce towards the end, and then you realize they actually were running parallel the whole time. So that would be kind of one story. And then my second thing was during all that process, I was writing this movie, Son of Clowns, and that was my contingency plan, which at the time I knew I wanted to make my own films, but for some reason I thought I had to go through Hollywood. And then after about a year of doing, the quote unquote right way, I realized no one's going to just give me money to make this. No one's going to just magically, snap their fingers. Like, if I want to make this, I need to make this and hit people up and call friends favors and, get, the guy I knew in middle school to hold the boom pole for a day and like, just like random stuff like that. Like,
Yeah.
just calling it all in. And that's what that's what we did after a long time. Yeah. We built a team.
That's
Yeah.
awesome. That's so,
Yeah.
and I love that what you said is like you said, you're sitting there thinking you had to do it the Hollywood normal
Yeah.
way, and you broke from that
Yeah.
mind, got out of the box. Because I'm in the same boat. I'm in a place right now where I feel like I'm putting a lot of sweat equity and labor
Yeah.
intensive hours in, and I'm not getting maybe as much as perhaps other people would want for
Right.
the work that I put in. I always say that there's a great quote. Warren Buffett, I think, is one of like probably 20 people who have coined this quote. But entrepreneurs are the only people in the world willing to work 80 to 100-hour work weeks to avoid working a 40-hour work week, right? So,
Yeah.
I embrace that every day.
Yeah.
I'm like, you know what, man? I could be making the same or better money by getting a 9 to 5, but I would be so bored out of my mind, and I would always feel this part side of me that I could do more. And so I love that you said, look, I could do it the normal way, but I'm going to utilize the resources and talent that I have here. I'm going to be local. I'm going to stay true to my roots, and so I love that, man. So Rockset Productions, do you want to shout them out one more time?
Yeah. Rocksetproductions.com. You can go check out Son of Clowns, all the other projects. We got some new stuff. Just did a documentary about an Olympic runner in training. So, if you like narrative or sports or doc, there's probably something on there for you. So
That's great. And I foresee in our future us collaborating on something.
yeah, dude, for sure. Yeah, this is awesome what you got going on here, man.
I appreciate that. Yeah, this is, I really, my inspiration for doing this podcast and this show in general is just because, I hear from so many of my friends that they look up to me, or they say things, not look up to me. In the midst of conversation, I'll get the sentiment like, man, Nick, you're doing so well. I wish I could, or if only, I was doing like you are. And see, I see myself right now in a position where I think I am becoming successful, but every day I know I'm learning. But what I'm starting to learn is that I was in that mindset that my friends are in 2 years ago. I was saying, man, look at all these people who are so successful. I want to be like them. And
Yeah.
it took me realizing and understanding that the only thing between me and where they were was hard work, learning, and I think the most important thing is a mentor. You need
Yeah.
some people in your life that are super successful. So, who in your life, in your industry, has been kind of a mentor to you? If you want to share a little bit about that.
Man, a lot of people have helped me out, and like I would just quickly just re-say in a sort of way what you just said is like, a lot of people think in film or anything else, like once you do that first big project where like you pull all the favors and do all the things, like once you do that, then everything magically comes into place. And it's like after Son of Clowns, I had a period where I had to realize, man, it's still just as hard
Yeah.
to pull all these things off. I just know how to do it, so you can pull it together a little quicker. And then once I realized that, I realized that consistency is key, and like just being consistent, even though, there's never going to be a moment, I think, where everything just goes from, 0 to 60. It's like 0 to 1, 1 to 2, 2 to 3. You got to like work very slowly and methodically. And like people I've seen in the industry do
We
it.
call it crawl, walk, run.
Yeah, dude, it's like the little evolution of man thing. Like you got to go slow. Like people want to just jump into like, crazy giant steps, and like it does take time. And like you got to have patience. It's like it's definitely tricky. And like I've been lucky because I have had good people, good mentors that have helped me out. I've had my film professors at East Carolina University, Ken Wyatt, Michael Tierno, both, great independent filmmakers in their own right that are showing that you can do this consistently and teach and do anything else you want to do. And like, they've written books and stuff. So it's like, it's cool because you see that you juggle, right? And like I've got another buddy, Ben Wiesner, who does a bunch of films that have gotten into like Sundance and stuff like that. And like he's been really awesome and gracious with his time. And like, he's very passionate about helping and just talking to independent filmmakers, and just saying like, the thing you're doing is the thing you're doing. Like if you're making films, you're on the right path. Like there's never going to be a magic wand, or there's never going to be, one thing that just clicks. It's being consistent, and just sort of being very disciplined in that. So
Yeah, I would completely agree that being disciplined, being consistent,
yeah,
understanding that at first you have to
yeah,
be patient. I had
yeah,
that I think I've embraced so much. Just getting started. I joined EXP Realty about 2 years ago, and I tell everyone today that says, "Man, Nick, a lot of people come up to me at some of the events. Like we just had a huge event at the Charlotte Convention Center, 725 agents in the room." And my business partner Bill Price and we basically booked everything. We
yeah,
ran the event, and we didn't have like a production team and everything. It
yeah,
was two guys, and our assistant Deanna, who's amazing. And we're just sitting there, and now we're like, man, we just booked a huge event. Spent $60,000+ on this event, and we're generate sponsors, revenue, and all these things. And I just sat there thinking, like, I had a lot of people come up to me at the event and say, Nick, you're everywhere. Do all these things. Like, man, you're so lucky. You're so lucky that you've done this and that. And I'm like, well, really, you got to remember, like 2 years ago, I was on the ground level. Like I was brand new,
hmm,
and I worked my rear end off. I really did. Like and I still do today and today, because I realized that even where I'm at today is not where I want to be.
yeah,
And what I think you have to realize, like you said, is the only difference between me today and me 2 years ago is that now I know a little bit more. So things kind of happen and come together a little bit quicker. And I'm definitely have the experience, but it's no different. If I stopped working today, I stopped working as hard, I wouldn't continue on this trajectory where I'm going. So I need to keep that
yeah,
energy, keep that same energy. Don't burn out, keep balance. And I think that's so important. But Evan, I just wanna say, because I wanna get you out here on a kind of a question that I want to ask every guest that I have, which is basically, what drives you? What's your why? What's your motivation every day to work hard to keep that energy, right? What drives you to keep working harder?
yeah. I think for me, at the end of the day, the reason I get up and make films and deal with, all the headaches and challenges and fun and everything else that comes with it, is because for me, I just love storytelling. I love, telling a story of someone who's not myself. And I know that's kind of different because a lot of people say, well, you need to tell your own story. And for me, I sort of tell my truth and my story through the experiences of others and what they're doing, and scripts and documentaries, and highlighting stuff that people aren't looking at. And that drives me. And so it's sort of like conversational listening. Like I have to listen to communicate, and
Yeah,
so it's a little different. But that, I think that's my biggest thing, is just making sure I'm hitting storytelling with everything I'm doing. I host a podcast as well, and that's kind of the same thing. It's like featuring stories that I think people should talk about. The new script is the same way. It's like a collaboration with another artist in my city, because that's the thing, like as artists and business people and creatives, like we're all working so hard, and sometimes, like I'm guilty of it, we put our blinders on and
yeah.
we're just head down working, and that's important, but collaboration is just as important, if not more, because it helps us all rise together. So it's like the old saying, the rising tide lifts all the boats. So
So you are a people person. You love to work with people, and that kind of drives you every
yeah,
day, and everything. And I think on a personal level too. I mean, you just got married, so
yeah, I did.
that's a pretty good
It
motivator
is.
right there, I'm sure.
Yeah, man, dude. Yeah, 2019 was wild. Like, made a feature film, got married, like working on more projects than ever. I mean, it was an action-packed year. So it left me really excited for like the new decade with 2020.
Well, I'm so glad that I was able to be there and to be
Yeah,
a
man.
part of that, and to see,
Dude.
witness,
Yeah.
because that was awesome. And I just want to say thank you so much for
Yeah.
joining me. Where can the good people find you on social media, Instagram? Shout out your handles.
Yeah, dude. So I'm at Mr. Evan Kidd on like Instagram, Twitter, and all that stuff. So if you want to keep up with what I'm doing, that's the best way. Hopefully, I won't post too much. Try not to get annoying, but I try to keep people just updated with what I'm doing. Keep it fun. So
Awesome.
yeah,
Well, I appreciate you, Evan. Thanks so much for joining me. And
yeah,
this has been the Project Millennial podcast. And so, everyone out there, big takeaway from me from this interview is stay motivated, stay patient, keep
definitely.
work, and be consistent. So, hope everyone has a great week, and we'll see you next week.